Welcome to Intuitive Astrology with Molly McCord. Thank you so much for joining me as we take a look at more of the energies around Pluto and Capricorn and the healing themes that are coming up for all of us right now. This is part 2 of the show topic where we're looking at the depths of your soul's power. And this is a very important energy to connect with right now as we undergo very big life changes as well as monumental global changes. If you want to listen to part 1, that episode originally aired on June 22nd. It is available to listen to in the library of this podcast. And I hope that it helps you put some pieces together around what you're connecting with as we move through this time period. So Pluto is always about our soul's growth. It's your evolution. It's what you're coming up against to work with. It typically involves our fears, very deep fears from other lifetimes, fears and even trauma from other parts of your experience that are conscious or unconscious. So what Pluto does is it opens you up to more of your energy field. It shows you blind spots or what was right behind you. It shows you what was buried deeper and deeper in your soul's journey and in your soul's experiences. It reveals more of who you are, but this can often happen first through the experience of powerlessness. And that's one of the traits of a very strong Pluto transit or strong Pluto energy signature in one's natal chart, is that there can be a sense of powerlessness, of what you don't have, of what you've perceived as outside of your control, outside of your choices, something that seems perhaps overwhelming. And this can show up in thousands of ways. So it's about looking at what is it for you? What is the theme for you around any type of powerlessness or victim energy or something where it's been so big that you didn't know how to emotionally work with it, because Pluto can also be very emotional in what we have to see in ourselves, move through, and understand. So if you can look at Pluto as the energy of opening you up to even more of who you are and who you've been outside of your self-identity. So in your natal chart, your sun is in a particular astrological sign. Your sun is in Taurus, your sun is in Gemini, your sun is in Capricorn. And this is the energy of self that you are developing throughout your life. The sun sign is where you are growing, you are getting stronger, you are developing a healthy confidence, you're working with the themes of that astrological chart. And so it also relates to your sense of self in this lifetime. But of course, in other lifetimes, you could have had, and most likely did have, a different sun sign. So if your sun is in Gemini, well, it could be that in another lifetime you had your sun in Sagittarius. There's so many different unlimited ways this can show up for each person. But I want to give you the understanding that right now, in this lifetime, your sun sign is showing you what you're developing in terms of your healthy sense of ego. However, as Pluto transits around your chart, Pluto is opening you up to more of who you are, more of your soul story, and more of the energies that are possible for you outside of your sense of self in this lifetime. The Pluto energy can help you remember other lifetimes, other soul experiences. It can show up as certain parts of the globe that you're drawn to. Certain countries, certain cultures, certain areas of the planet that you've always been interested in. Chances are those are energetic places that you have had life experiences in at another time. That's where your soul has experienced something and you're feeling that energy. You're called to that country, that town, that location because part of your energy has been there and or you've had some significant experiences there. So the Pluto energy opens us up to even more. And this is what's happening also as Pluto has been transiting through Capricorn. Capricorn being the energy of our career, profession, public status, what we do in the world, how we understand our purpose, how we open up to more of what we're here to contribute, and where we also develop the authority and responsibility to take mastery over our lives. So Pluto in Capricorn is really revealing more of your soul story around your soul mission and your soul work. And it's asking you to make the changes that are necessary to be in alignment with your soul's needs right now. And so this is where it gets really interesting, because at a human level, we can look at our lives and say, okay, I went to school for this, or I have a certification in this, or I've been doing this, that, and the other thing for 30 years, or I'm really drawn to this. We have all these understandings of what we thought our life was going to be, especially in a professional manner. This energy is actually activating for you, again, a bigger understanding of what you've done through multiple lifetimes, where you've had expertise, where you've had training, where you've been an apprentice, perhaps where you've always done something really well, even if that was just a passion you had or something that you enjoyed. What I feel has been activated for many people during this grand shift, especially in 2020, is that we're seeing how far we've come in one energy dynamic. And now we're getting an understanding as the world changes, as our life changes, as things are really being shaken up. We understand more of what we really want and what's in our heart and what calls to us in a way that isn't in the mind. It's not in that place of, oh, I have to do this, or I should do this, or I'm expected to do this. There's a rising up of your natural talents, abilities, gifts that I feel have been developed across multiple lifetimes. And if this is resonating for you, trust it. Trust what is coming up that excites you, that interests you, that you're passionate about, that you just want to follow. Because these are really clear messages that are showing you more of what you came in with, to work with, to grasp, to honor, to develop. And this Pluto energy is also, it brings about the gifts of discomfort. It shows you where you're uncomfortable, where you can no longer be, where it feels like there's just no longer a fit here. And I know that's difficult at some level when the energy of discomfort shows up before your mind has processed it, or before your mind is ready to make a change. There's something about, we feel the energy, we sense the energy, we know that change is happening. And this can even be that premonition of going to a job and knowing that you're not going to be there for a few months longer, or going into something that you know you're done with. You don't have any more energy for it. It doesn't click. It doesn't interest you. It served its purpose. And now there's a new purpose rising. There's a new energy rising within you. This is the Pluto in Capricorn that we're meant to see. The changes are unfolding in a very big way. And as I say this, in part one of this topic, I talked about the deep well, right? The deep well of energy that goes into the earth around different lifetimes and experiences that we've had that have been grounded into the earth. And I'm feeling like what's really big about not only Pluto in Capricorn, but of course Jupiter in Capricorn and Saturn in Capricorn, all together in this third decan of Capricorn. And the third decan is between 20 to 29 degrees of an astrological sign. And it is the point in the sign's energy where you are ready to put into use what you've developed, grown, and learned. It's the point of application. It's where you've moved through a process and now it's time to make it real, put it out there, work with it, demonstrate something that you've learned. And so we're all having this energy like push us forward, and it feels like a soul force. I mean, it feels like a very big force of energy that's meant to push us into an area of ourselves that cannot be denied. Although it can be uncomfortable, and it can bring up fears, and it can bring up, a list of emotional responses, but the energy is bigger. And so it's this bigger cycle of energy that's pushing all of us into a new experience of mastery that our soul has been developing for lifetimes. And if you can see it in that timeline of many, perhaps centuries of development, of growth, if you can see it in a bigger spectrum outside of just right now, that can bring you some comfort. This isn't your first rodeo with some things. Like there's things you've been developing and you're good at that you left on the table. It wasn't time. You weren't ready. You had other things to do. Again, thousands of reasons why things can unfold as they do. But I'm just seeing this big push of energy coming through here that's requiring us to make some things real. And this, of course, also pertains to Saturn in Capricorn that wants us to make commitments. And to make these commitments out of a place of self-respect. Respect yourself, respect your journey, respect what you've learned and how far you've come and what you've been through on your own, because that Saturn in Capricorn energy is showing us what we can manifest, what can be made real out of time, energy, dedication. But there's also this point of not going back and being okay with the unknowns and even being okay with the discomfort, which isn't something that we always want to do. And so the Pluto energy, by the way, can also bring up the energy of addictions, of where we go to numb ourselves or to cope with certain levels of discomfort and pain. And so Pluto can show you what is coming up for you in your own coping mechanisms, maybe how you numb yourself or what you're not looking at or what you're not able to look at because of the fears. And again, I'm feeling this as an energy that can come from many lifetimes. But what's happening with this big push, this big cycle of energy that's coming through, is that it's asking you to really be in your power in a whole new way. And it's interesting because as I see that energy of a very deep well going into the earth, now what they're showing me is that that deep well, inside of it is actually our DNA spiral. It's the DNA helix that spirals in, like down through the well. And that what is happening is that we're going down this well. This DNA energy is going into some very deep energies in the earth that I'm feeling as a reconnection to past life energies, a reconnection to soul stories, soul journey, like a very deep connection to all of your energy. And this DNA is actually getting to the core of the earth origination in the galaxy. And some of you were here to birth Earth. You were some of the creators of the planet. You were some of the first occupants of the planet. I'm actually feeling this as you were some of the organisms that were on the planet first. You weren't in human form. There was another energetic expression. And you were part of the intention of Earth. And we're going into this very core level energy and it's being reprogrammed. So what I'm seeing, so if you imagine this DNA helix spiraling down into the core of the earth, and then at the very center of the earth, I see this pulsing light, and there the energy is being reformulated. It's like being reprogrammed with just this new energy. It's almost like new light codes, new dimensions, new frequencies, and new intentions to rebirth Earth. And then I see the energy now, it's going to spiral back up the DNA, and that's part of how the energy is shifting at a DNA frequency. And I hope this visual is clear to you because I try my best to translate what I'm seeing here. And it just has this new energy pulsing back up the DNA spiral, the DNA strands, and it comes back up. And then they're showing me that this is part of this very fascinating energetic clearing that's going on during all these Capricorn energies, is that we're working really intentionally with the planet, which makes sense because of how, of course, Capricorn is an earth sign, but it's energetically restructuring the planet, clearing out energies across multiple lifetimes, multiple timelines, multiple parts of a soul's journey. It's like all being cleared out. That's why we're getting educated on certain things that we've been healing and learning and developing and moving through. And it's been really big. It's been a very big time. And the energy coming up and out that I'm seeing is actually connected to the age of Aquarius energy. So we're reprogramming the energies into a whole new frequency. Now, what's interesting about this is that the ages of Earth actually move in reverse. Earth has been in the age of Pisces. And so now we're moving into the age of Aquarius. But I'm feeling like there's this conversation, of course, with the Capricorn energies, since we have very big Capricorn energies affecting our world right now. So what is happening is a deeper reprogramming for each of us, but it's also reprogramming the planet. And this is something that they're showing me. It's like everyone's invited to do this. There's no one who cannot do this or who is prevented from doing this, but it certainly is a choice. And it's a choice of awakening. It's a choice of healing. It's a choice of ascension. And of course, there's only certain people who would be drawn to this experience, drawn to having this energetic reprogramming occur. And so what they're showing me is that you're really doing deeper work than perhaps you're consciously aware of. And that's okay. They're saying that you don't have to consciously know what you're doing energetically. In fact, it could be too much, but that you'll feel it or you'll sense it. It could come through in your dreams. It could come through in any number of ways, especially depending on your spiritual gifts, depending on your talents with reading energy. With your intuitive abilities or psychic abilities, like the messages can come through really quickly. And then the other thing they're showing me is that the messages can come through any of the chakras, where if any of your chakras is feeling particularly heavy or injured or intense or what have you, there could be a message coming through for you around not only what you're healing in that chakra, but how that chakra relates to this energetic reprogramming in a very deep way. And this is something that's working with every person who is willing and desiring this level of change in your life. Because what you're doing is you are actually shifting the frequency and energy of your DNA at a core level. The earth is supporting you. The earth is in partnership with you. And as you give to the earth gives back to you. So I feel like we're doing a lot of deep work that hasn't been done on the planet for a very long time. And the other thing that keeps coming through about this show topic is the energy of Atlantis and how the fall of Atlantis definitely relates to the Capricorn energies that were too power hungry, and that there are many people on the planet right now who are essentially reliving their Atlantis experience, who are playing out certain roles, dynamics, and themes to create a new, we'll call it an ending, although it's not really an ending, it's a new beginning, who are shifting the energy, who are transforming it for the good of humanity. And then there are also those who are very unconscious, very unaware, who are still playing their same role related to Atlantis themes, and they are not shifting. So that's part of this energy that's going on right now. And the gifts of Atlantis were about human ingenuity and human consciousness, human technology, but also the ability to transform and evolve the human body. And what that means in terms of cloning, artificial intelligence, robotics, what it means for how all of this can be performed in a responsible way that honors humanity. And in Atlantis, that was not the case. It was very much about how far something could go. And it feels like there were a lot of destructive choices, and that a lot of the Atlantis energies were not really birthed with the right intention. And Earth is a free will planet, and anything goes. But part of what I'm feeling is that what we are undergoing. Okay, so now they're showing me the COVID energies and how the COVID pandemic is replicating Atlantis themes And that part of what we're being guided to do is to take an empowered stance in what is correct for you and to look at the long-term timeline here. So the COVID energy is really interesting. I just haven't seen this. I didn't know this overlay with the Atlantis storyline, because the Atlantis storyline, the destruction of that also had to do with what was being developed. And they're showing me labs, like a lot of laboratories in Atlantis, a lot of places where things were explored and tested, and oh God. Now, sorry, they just flashed one of those visuals from the Nazi laboratories, and how the experiments of the Nazi regime were related to Atlantis. And it's like there's these themes. And I bet that if you even sat with this for yourself and you just trust what comes up, how have humans been harmed and tampered with, so to speak, outside of their own will, power, and their own sense of choice. And you could find examples across so many different timelines and cultures and belief systems and reasons and cults and what have you. And it's really not a great energy trail to follow, but they're just wanting me to highlight that there have been times when humanity has been deeply traumatized. And they're saying unnecessarily traumatized because of other intentions on the planet. And so part of what is being cleared out and really cleared away are these intentions. And it's been a top-down hierarchy. It's been a top-down decision-making. And it's been based on, who has the most power, who has the most money, who has the most access, who can run the most tests, who can go into developing countries with vulnerable populations and do medical experiments on them. This is what's happened for years. And so what we're looking at is what is necessary. What do we need? What is best for humanity? These are very big questions. There's no one answer. There's not even one right answer. But what we're doing is raising our consciousness around what is acceptable on this planet. And part of the Pluto and Capricorn cycle is showing us the truth. That's what Pluto does too. Pluto delivers the truth. It's the hard truth, the hard reality. This is what you need to know. It can do so through shock, through emotional events. Typically we think of, Uranus as the shocking planet, which it is, but the Pluto energy brings up what's been hidden, what's been behind the scenes. And then when that's revealed, it's disturbing or it's shocking. So we're really going into what is happening on this planet that is correct for humanity or not, and what are we shifting? What are we moving forward? And what are we actually doing so? Because there were times on the planet when we could not shift. We could not step out of a certain trajectory or timeline. Of course, then they're showing me how Atlantis fell because of I'm going to call it a crushing energy. Again, that top-down smush, pressure, destruction. And I feel this sense of people who made certain choices who were responsible. It's like the three people who are responsible for the death of millions. There's something here where that karma, that destruction, that energy that played out has very big consequences in this lifetime. And so that's part of this reenactment that is happening and unfolding. And so this could also be working with you personally, and maybe you identify with Atlantis and maybe you don't. Some people have a very strong resonance with it. Some people had multiple lifetimes in Atlantis, of course, in many different roles and with many different experiences. But what I'm seeing specifically here is that the energy of Atlantis is being played out so that we can have a new soul experience and a new harmony on the planet around what it means to be human, to understand the extent of humanity, of what humans are possible of creating, inventing, experiencing, but it's a shift in consciousness. So it's a shift in, I'm going to call it the Atlantis Consciousness, and it's also a balancing of what was not present at that time. And so this correlates to the rising divine feminine energies on the planet, as well as the rising energy coming from our hearts, of the heart chakra, of the understanding of what is in our hearts that's not being overridden by the ego or by an unnecessary desire for power and control. And now they're showing me too how the Atlantis energies have played out again on different places on the planet. The fall of Rome, the end of family dynasties, Byzantine Empire is coming up. Like anything where there was this imbalance of energies, and there has been a lack of respect for humanity. There's been a lack of respect for free will and personal sovereignty. So this is a very interesting energy that I'm feeling, because it also has the energy of returning to something that was pure on the planet. And I feel like as Earth has been visited by many extraterrestrials and other energies with good and evil intentions, there have been many shifts, and I'm seeing this as a zigzag. You know, there's been the zigzag energy around where the Earth has gone. And what is happening right now is that the power is in humanity, and humanity has more power than ever before. And this is what's different this time around. And it's deeply rooted in the spiritual growth and the spiritual awakening and understanding who you are in a bigger sense, and not giving your power over to others, not handing over your choices and your free will to someone just because they hold a certain title or because of a certain role they have. There's a sense of maintaining what is true for you and maintaining the energy in a way that accelerates your spiritual growth in this lifetime. So I hope this is making sense to you. I realize this is a show you might listen to a few times to put all the pieces together, but they're telling me this is very important to understand right now, that it's a much bigger cycle that's happening, and that your responsibility is in maintaining your own energy field, in understanding your own soul's experiences, what you're clearing, what you're shifting. And they're also showing me a timeline of this energy is going to play out. Well, I know that 2027 is a big turning point year. I know, 7 years away. But what we're moving through, especially until 2025, okay, 5 years, the next 5 years are pivotal in what's playing out, and what needs to play out, and what the consequences are, and what is again being destructed and coming unwound, or like falling away. And you know, they're showing me the structures falling down, but these are also energetic structures, because we're collectively doing this together, and it's more of a long game than a short game. But there's something here around understanding what is shifting on this planet has never been done before, because we've never been at this state of consciousness before. And to remain in your truth, your power, and your choices. And that's how you're going to connect with the best energies of Pluto, so to speak. Because even though Pluto takes us through hard lessons, again, going back to a sense of perhaps feeling powerless, overwhelmed, traumatized, abused, it takes us through a process, because Pluto, he doesn't want to leave you there. He doesn't want to leave you in that state of powerlessness. It's part of the spiral, okay? It's part of that spiraling up where you keep going through the dark nights of the soul. You keep going through the deep emotions and the really hard reality checks. And that's when you start to see more of what you're made of, and you really gain this inner strength. And now they're showing me how that DNA helix, that DNA spiral, is absolutely within us. Of course, it's in our full bodies, but they're showing me the energy going up the spine, and how that's the spine energy of strength, right? Of standing strong in yourself, being upright, being really in your sense of physical power. They're also showing me that the energy spiraling up from the spine is also moving up into the crown chakra and of course beyond. So we're really being deeply reworked, and this is happening for multiple years, and it's going to bring about deep change on the planet. And I feel like we are past a tipping point, if you will. Like they're saying victory. Like there's already been a victory here. Like there's already been the shifting of energy on the planet. There's already been more light, more peace, and more things brought onto the planet. And if you listen to this podcast regularly, you may remember that just a few episodes ago, I was talking about how there's been a big shift here on the planet where a lot has been removed. And it's a bit like going into a drain and you pull out all that gross debris and tar out of the drain. And that's what they're showing me, is that like the energy of tar has been pulled off the planet, and that is also a victory. So there's already a lot of good things happening, and there's already been shifts, and it's because of humanity's awakening, humanity's rising consciousness, humanity's spiritual growth. Like there's already been some awesome developments that have energetically supported this journey. So they're saying that it's very important right now to keep in your power and to stay mindful of what your energy needs, and that you're also being supported in the shifts that are happening, if that's what you choose to believe. I mean, this is based on what you want and what you want to believe about yourself and your life. But they're showing me that many people have already crossed over a bridge, that it kind of looks like this a covered bridge, that maybe it's like a bridge of darkness. It's like a covered bridge where you didn't know what you were crossing over into, but you were crossing out of one thing and into another. And that so many people have already made this cross. And actually they're saying it's not even conscious. It's something that happened energetically. And it's why so much has changed in your life, because of who you related to before, and your perhaps your family or your job or your experiences or where you live, like everything. There's so much that's changing right now, that they're just showing me like this bridge that you crossed over is something that is supporting where you're going next. And they're also sending me this energy of excitement, of like, this is a really exciting time on the planet. This is really exciting for those who have done this work. Things are going to get really good if you're in alignment with this energy and you're feeling this way. Things are going to get really good. And so now what's really important too, for those who are really feeling the pressure to make a job change, to make a professional change, one thing that will always be needed on this planet is anything that requires you to work with people directly, meaning your skill set and your expertise cannot be automated. It can't be done by robots. It can't be replaced by anybody else. So what can you develop and do that is truly about the human experience? Anything that supports the human experience is where people are going to thrive. And of course, this can be any number of things, okay? So it's not like you have to be a healer, but it's something that supports your uniqueness and your humanness that cannot be replicated by a machine, cannot be automated, cannot be replaced by a robot, cannot be cloned, okay? This is about your authenticity of your energy. And that's also why there's been this pressure on us to authentically know ourselves, because that is part of this bridge. It's part of this gateway into saying, this is how I'm uniquely me, and this is what I can do in the world to connect with other humans. So I hope that gives you some good things to think about, because I know that you could be at many different places with this information and this knowledge. But understand that that's where we, as the human collective, are going to continue to shift this planet, is that we are really stepping into a whole new consciousness around human capabilities. That's part of this awakening. That's part of this journey, is that the energy of being human, the joy of being human, the amazing things we can do together, that's part of this experience, and that's part of what we're moving into with the age of Aquarius too. So the Pluto energy is supporting us, even though at times it can feel like the opposite. But just know that the bigger timeline here is that it's helping put you in alignment with the truth of who you are at the essence of your energy field. Again, when I get that visual of the DNA helix going down into the core of the earth, it's similar to the DNA helix going into the core of your soul's intentions and what you as a soul wanted to experience on this planet, what you wanted to bring forth, the gifts you wanted to share, how you wanted to feel, and how you wanted to experience being human. All of that is possible in this lifetime, which is why it's very exciting as well. So I hope this has given you some good things to sit with and to think about, as well as a timeline of changes on the planet and what will be coming out and coming forth in the years ahead. And I hope it also reminds you of the fullness of your energy field, because again, Pluto's digging up more of who you are and more of what's possible. After you go through the discomfort, it shows you more of what you can do because it's tapping you into your mastery. So I'm going to leave it at that for this episode. And once again, thank you for joining me. Thank you so much for your time, your energy, your presence. And remember, you can go back and listen to any of these podcast episodes. They are all available on blogtalkradio.com/Molly McCord. They're also available on Apple Podcasts and other places where podcasts are distributed. I know that a number of you listen on Google, on Stitcher, on YouTube. So I hope that this helps with your journey. And I'll be back on Wednesday for another review of the energies coming up over the next week ahead. And thank you so much for joining me. You can find out more about my current programs and classes at mollymccord.online, or you can check out any of my 12 books over at consciouscoolchic.com. Thank you for joining me. Have a beautiful day ahead, and I'll connect with you again soon.